Now that Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 has finally been released, we now have so much more info on the story and where the story is heading, receiving more lore and info than any of the previous chapters. In this video, I want to focus on the villains of Chapter 4, starting with Pianosaurus. Justice for Pianosaurus is what's trending in the comments of most Poppy Playtime videos, and for good reason. There was a ton of hype built around this character, with what felt like the shortest interaction of all of the characters. So far, I feel like this would have been the perfect opportunity to use Brawn the dinosaur, instead of them making a new character for it to die in 17 seconds. After we see it, maybe we will see Brawn in a future chapter, but I feel like this was a wasted opportunity when it could have just been Brawn instead. They could have just used it as a surprise IC and not shown anything about him leading up to the game's release. Next up, I want to talk about the Doctor. This was also another villain in the game that just didn't feel like it didn't end the way we all expected it to. From all of the trailers, the main Doctor looks different compared to all of the other endoskeletons. I assumed we would get past all of the endos and face the main Doctor at the end, like the one we saw in the trailers in the room, filled with TVs. Yarnaby fit most of my expectations, as this was probably one of the more difficult parts of the chapter. This felt in line with the previous Chapter 3, Schoolhouse with Miss Delight, puzzle solving while being chased throughout, and a final death at the end. Another reason I believe Pianosaurus didn't have a bigger part is because we had just finished dealing with a boss battle, and usually we are given a break. After Dowie was a great final boss, in a very Resident Evil final boss setting. To be honest, I thought from the thumbnail for the Chapter 4 trailer that Dowie would become a shapeshifter of the previous bosses we faced in the previous chapters, with the thumbnail showing the other bosses inside of his arm. This also made me think of the Mommy Longlegs death scene, where she says, "You will make me part of him," but that was just a stretch. Finally, who we all hoped would come back would in fact be Huggy Wuggy, and not until the very end of the game. Mob Games has found a way to fit Huggy Wuggy in some form in every chapter, so it was a bit expected, from being the main boss in Chapter 1, him as Mini Huggies in the second chapter, a hallucination in Chapter 3, and finally the normal Huggy back in Chapter 4. I am really excited to see where Chapter 5 takes us and who we will face other than the prototype in the next chapter. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Leave a like and a comment on what you think will happen in Chapter 5, and I'll see you in the next video.